Well, hello, everybody, and once again, welcome to the show this week. And as always, I'm your host, David Burrows. Hope you had a busy and fun weekend. There's certainly lots to do in Sarnia this past weekend. I had to miss it. I felt really bad I felt bad. I was out of town doing some things. I was working, doing some live streaming down in London, actually, but saw so many things happening here with, of course, Art Walk was happening, or the 3-on-3, pardon me, hockey challenge happened down at Canatera Park, and hearing lots of great things from everybody went to Art in the Park. Very huge success. Poutine Fest was in town as well. Heard some great things about that. And of course, again, the 3-on-3 hockey challenge, I'm told Rob Jenkins and Aaron Zimmer tell me it was a great success. So, and not bad weather, I guess. For the weekend, right? So, hello, everybody. Again, welcome to the show this week. And as always, I've got lots to talk about. 3 fantastic guests this week. I seem to be getting great guests all the time, right? I mean, there's so many great people out there in our community and beyond, and some of them that are from other communities that are coming to our community. So it's great to, we like to say, cross-promote each other's communities. And while I'm always going to have some local happening here on the show, I will also always, or at least trying to get somebody from another community in another city here to join us as well. So my first guest coming up in just a few moments, Dr. Michael Ungar will be here. He's going to be here doing a presentation here in Sarnia on June the 14th, which we'll be broadcasting as well. Thanks to Sarnia Lambton Rebound and himself, Dr. Michael Ungar, for agreeing to that. So he'll be coming up shortly. And then Phil Smyth, I don't even know where to begin talking about this gentleman, Phil Smyth, because he's a musician, a traveler, an entrepreneur, a poet. Like, he's just a lot of things. And they're all good. So he's a lot of things, that guy. He'll be coming up about 4 o'clock. And then coming up a little bit later, we're going to have Cynthia Lockrey here. And as I said, coming up in about 10 minutes, Michael Ungar will be here. I do see him in our lobby in our studio, so that's good. Thanks, Michael. But first, we got to talk about a few things here that we do around here on the show. And let's talk about the Video Show Network for a moment. So I know there are 2 different entities around here, but the Video Show Network is promoting music events and community, and Sarnia Lambton. And now beyond that, with the power of live streaming, the Video Show Network is host to about 15 different live broadcasts all throughout the United States. Australia, the United Kingdom has joined us. And we're always looking for more people. If you're going to live stream a show, or maybe you'd like to start live streaming your own show and you want some help, talk to us here at the Video Show Network. We will be happy to help you with that, as long as they're positive, good things. That's all we want around here at the Video Show Network. And then, of course, we do live stream broadcasting as well. We broadcast you the Pacers games in lacrosse. We're going to be broadcasting Dr. Michael Ungar, different local events that happen. So if you've got an event coming up that you think you want to share with the world, talk to us. We'd love to help you out with that. And of course, we always ask everybody, you can see there on the screen, follow us everywhere, Twitter and everywhere. Snapchat, I struggle with Snapchat. Maybe it's my age. I don't know. But try us on Snapchat anyway. We're everywhere for that. All right. Well, we've been talking about it lots, but we want to keep talking about it more, because it is certainly going to be the summer concert event that we've all been waiting for to come back again. It was here last year, Blue Water Border Fest, and they've cranked it up another notch this year. Blue Water Border Fest, again, going to be happening down at Centennial Park. 3 days, the Thursday, Friday, and Saturday in July 26th, 27th, 28th. Already some fantastic bands being announced there. We'll just go through them for you right now. Of course, Drake White is going to start things off for Country Night. That is huge. And some local acts going to be there as well. You'll be able to find this all on our Facebook page. But Drake White coming, I know for country fans, that is really super exciting. And then, of course, the Guess Who, yes, the Guess Who and Honeymoon Suite will be here on the Friday night, the classic rock night. And some local bands. Jabrito, local band, is opening up for Honeymoon Suite. And if anybody there knows Tony Zangoli, who works here at Pickers Alley, biggest Honeymoon Suite fan ever. It's probably already opened for them 4 or 5 times. He's excited to do it again. So again, the Guess Who and Honeymoon Suite coming on Rock Night. And then, if it's not the Arkells, wow, the Arkells are going to be here. Matt Mays will be here as well. And also just recently announced, we had it announced last week on our show, or 2 weeks ago on our show, Dear Rouge. That's right, electronic rock band Dear Rouge, who's got a new album out called Phases. I'm just going to pull up my desktop screen here for a moment and show you some of the things from Dear Rouge, if I can get that working. I'm a one-man band myself. Dear Rouge, yes, and they've got a new album out called Phases, and there you can see it. Check them out, of course, on Apple Music, iTunes Store, Spotify, and Google Play, and just simply go to Dear Rouge online to find them out, to find out more about Dear Rouge. And we've got some pretty exciting things. We're excited to be a part of Blue Water Border Fest. We're one of the media partners with Blue Water Border Fest, and I will be down there all weekend long, live streaming behind the scenes. We'll be doing some special interviews with all these bands. Yes, the Guess Who, Honeymoon Suite, the Arkells, Drake White, and there's some more exciting announcements to come out as well. But don't wait. Go online to bluewaterborderfest.com to get your tickets for that. All right, well, we were talking just a few moments ago about Pacers lacrosse action. They're having a tough year, but they seem to be coming around a little more often with the wins. I don't know if it's too little too late, but they are working hard out there. And, of course, all the home game coverage exclusively on the Video Show Network. You can watch that at tvsn.ca. Just recently, they were down this past weekend in Welland, and the Pacers struggled hard, but they kept going hard, and they did come out with a win, winning over Welland Warriors at 14-11. So fast-paced, the fastest game on 2 feet, they say, and it gets pretty crazy down there. We'll be back there next home game coming up this week, but before then, they'll be going away once again to Windsor on Thursday, June the 7th at 8 o'clock. They'll be on the road down to Windsor, hopefully to take a win away from Windsor this time. They struggled last time. But they're still working hard out there. That happens Thursday night. And then we will be back at the Point Edward Memorial Arena to bring you the game live as they take on the London Blue Devils. London has not won a game yet in the in the lacrosse series, so maybe that's an advantage. I don't know, but we'll see as the Pacers play host to the London Blue Devils. And again, that will be live broadcast on the Video Show Network, tvsn.ca, Saturday, June the 9th. Game time for that, 7 o'clock. Another game on Sunday as well. Well, Kids Fun Fest. We've got Blue Water Border Fest, and we've got all these fests and poutine fests and a whole lot of fests. We got to have a Kids Fun Fest as well. That's also coming up this Saturday, so get the kids out there to the Clearwater Arena Parkway out there, if you will, and that's where Kids Fun Fest will be happening all day this Saturday, and lots of great activities always out there. And you can learn a lot about the different organizations that are available in our community, specifically, of course, for the kids. And there might be some volunteer opportunities out there for you as well if you're looking to volunteer in the community. So again, Kids Fun Fest coming up this Saturday. Of course, last week we had Whitney Simpson, who is part of the Stephanie Shaw Memorial Ball Hockey Tournament. That's going to be happening on July the 14th at Canaterra Park. Once again, this ball hockey seems to be really popular. And, of course, again, supporting the Stephanie Shaw Memorial Ball Hockey Tournament. Still looking for some teams. And, again, happening July 14th. You can watch the broadcast that we had with Whitney Simpson on our Facebook page, the show as well. Well, lip smacking and quench your thirst kind of thing coming back. It's the Sarnia Rib and Craft Beer Fest. Once again happening out of Hiawatha this year, the beginning of the summer. It'll start June 22nd to the 24th. Yeah, starting early this year. But again, still out at Hiawatha, Sarnia Rib and Craft Beer Fest. There's going to be a car show involved as well this year. And there's going to be some great there'll be some local music. And also there's going to be an AC/DC tribute band to start things off on the Friday evening. So AC/DC fans, come on out there and get out shaking it all night long with AC/DC. And Rob Jenkins and the band, they will be there in the beginning to start things off. Rob Jenkins in the band. Rob Jenkins in the room. Okay, pardon me. I could have called him worse. It's okay, I know them. Rob Jenkins in the room there to start things off on the Friday night, June 22nd. Sarnia Rib and Craft Beer Fest. We'll have a special interview coming up during the week with Big Daddy. If you don't remember Big Daddy from Sarnia Rib Fest, this will be worthwhile checking out. So again, that's starting June 22nd and 24th. And again, the Video Show Network and myself will be there all weekend bringing you some special live stream things happening behind scenes. And we'll check out the ribs. I'm getting hungry just talk about it, so I guess I better move on. All right. Just before we go, I do want to. I don't talk a lot about this on the show, but I'm going to break my own rule here. Let's just talk politics for just a moment. I've been hearing a lot of conversations in our city and people and talking online. And again, I don't put myself out there too much of where I stand with which party or whatnot. I'll leave that for another day, perhaps. But I do want to just put out there, I'm hearing conversations, of course, Kathleen Wynne came out recently to say and admit that we're not going to win. And I've never heard anybody do anything like that so early in an election race. So there's got to be some kind of strategy involved in all of this. Pardon me, we'll bring that back to screen there. And of course, I don't know the reasons why what's happening out there, but what I keep hearing is I'm going to go vote this way because I don't want that one to win. And I don't think that's the right reason to vote for somebody. Now, while I'm saying, you might not like the choices that are out there, it might be the lesser of the best or whatever your opinion is, okay? And again, I don't want to get into whether you're NDP or Liberal or PC. That's entirely up to you. I'm just wanting to suggest strongly that you take the time and do your due diligence. And I don't think we could ever agree with each party wholly as to what they're going to do or how they're going to do it. I think we just have to make the best choices we can based on accurate information. And I think more people need to take the time to go out and talk to your local representatives, ask the questions. I guess just do your own research, but don't just vote just because you don't want the other one out there. And I keep hearing that a lot, and I think that could be something that could fail us if we vote that way. You should know what you're voting for. You look at the polls here. I'll bring it up real quickly. You can see, as of this broadcast, the NDP are in lead 37% and PC 36.9%. Liberals have climbed back up a little bit. So I don't know if that's part of the strategy for the Liberals. People are talking majority government, minority government. I'm not even educated enough to know how to talk about all of it, but I do know enough to educate myself and spend the time because we've been given this right to vote. I strongly suggest voting for the right reasons. So that's my political rant, if you will, without getting too involved with it. So, all right. Well, my next guest is in the lobby and he's ready, and I'm very excited to have him here because this is important. We're going to be talking about children and resilience. And, there's a lot of books out there, I guess, on how to raise children. You've heard that old joke. I wish somebody had written a book a long time ago. But pay close attention to our next guest. He is the author of I Still Love You. He's coming to Sarnia on June the 14th to talk to those who are interested in learning more about his book and what it's all about. And registration is already open. Sarnia Lambton Rebound is bringing them here. And the first 75 people who register are going to get a copy of his book. I'm hoping to get one as well. He's in the lobby and he's ready. We're gonna bring him in online right now. Dr. Michael Ungar, thank you for being here.
Great to be here as well. Thanks for this.
Yeah, I have to say I've been really excited and looking forward to you being here and being a part of the show. But more importantly, coming to Sarnia to share this because it's important what you're talking about, and I think a lot of parents are looking for help, and I think the youth are looking for help as well, in more than one way. So, introduce yourself and talk a little bit about what you're going to share with us.
Sure. So my daytime gig is I'm a Canada Research Chair, and I study childhood resilience. I look at usually kids that are under stress, whether that's from family issues, school issues, community issues, whatever is going on in their lives. And the group I lead, we basically do that work all around the world. But sometimes what I love to do is I'm a clinician as well. I'm a family therapist and a social worker by training. And I love to bring those ideas back out to families, some of what we're actually learning, what the science is telling us about what actually makes kids do well when they're under stress. And a lot of that was integrated into the book, I Still Love You. So I hope that evening I can talk about, I like to say I can boil this down to 9 things that parents can actually do to make their kids more resilient. And in some ways, the good message here if I could, is that these are actually things that parents can do. I think sometimes we think about resilience as just inside our kids, as if somehow it's just like kind of laying there and they're just going to either have it or don't have it. And what's interesting about the work that we do is we say, actually, no, you can actually create environments around kids. How you structure your home, the kinds of activities you give kids in the community, and indeed their schools. Those kinds of things actually come together to show a kid whether or not they can actually do better, especially when they hit a speed bump in life.
Yeah, you make it sound so simple.
Well,
and of course I'm jesting with you, but I think well, I'm a parent myself, and there's lots of folks watching their parents. Do we overthink how to be a parent sometime? Like, are we trying too hard to figure it out?
I think it depends. It's funny. It depends on the amount of stress your kid is under. So if you got a kid who's just going through the typical phases of it all, I always say they're going to get through it no matter pretty much anything that we do as parents. But what sometimes happens is that we forget that when a kid is under more stress, so they're being bullied, they're having a real serious problem with a peer, or maybe there's a divorce in the family, or something else is going on in their lives. At times like that, it is more challenging to parent. And in fact, it's funny. And when I wrote I Still Love You, I was kind of a little bit angry with some of the parenting books out there that kind of laid it out really simply, like, count 1, 2, 3 and magic happens. And I don't know about you, but my kids, when they were in crisis, that's not how it went. And so what I tend to do is when I present, I tell a lot of stories about families that going through the ups and sometimes the downs, but usually making progress to helping their kids. And they do that in one way. You're right. It is sort of simple. There is a bit of a script, but getting that script right is a challenge. So for instance, I always say, kids love structure, and parents go, often they roll their eyes, but actually, no, I'll convince you. Kids actually not only love structure, they want structure, and we all do better when we have it. And they also like consequences, but the consequences have to match. In a sense, they have to be things that the kids can actually fix. So, like, I'm always stunned by parents who take away allowances when the kid, say, doesn't, help clean up the kitchen or something after dinner. Well, no one's paying me to be in the kitchen, so the consequence is out of whack to what you're actually trying to change in the child.
Right.
When you get it right, and you basically create a situation where the child is under, that their behavior is actually, they're held accountable for it. It goes a lot easier parenting. And I myself, I have 5 kids, so I'm kind of, we're sort of.
Oh, you are an expert then.
they were the guinea pigs. I think they were definitely the test subjects, unfortunately. But no, they're doing great actually. And but you get these things, or you think about, of course merelationships matter. But I always say, like, the other thing I love to talk about is, like, are you as a parent encouraging your children to talk to strangers? And I say, and I mean this, I don't mean this jokingly. We should be encouraging our children to talk to strangers, not the really, really strange ones, but the moderately strange ones.
Yeah.
And I say that, but you want kids out in the world. You want them problem solving. You want them figuring out how to have the life skills that they're going to need. And you begin to think about how will they develop a powerful identity? How do they have experiences of control? How do you help them to feel like they belong? Yeah. And if you notice the way I'm sort of talking about these things, is these are actually things that we as parents can shape for our kids really quite easily in our kitchens, in our homes, by if you got an 8-year-old that you're about to take out to an activity like soccer this evening or something like that, no problem. Make sure though that we're giving opportunities for kids to take some genuine responsibilities for themselves. Maybe pack their gear. Pack the lunch, and there's so many of these little tiny strategies that we sometimes forget as parents, which can actually teach our kids and give them the building blocks for future resilience. And I don't just say that lightly, because we actually study kids. We do a lot of research. I do a lot of clinical work with families that are really struggling. And when I meet a kid who's resilient, these are often the kinds of things that they say were actually the building blocks for what they needed to learn how to cope better with life.
Wow. It's got to be different, though. I mean, than, a few years back when I'm 49 years old, to give you that example, and now, this whole social media thing, you can't avoid social media even if you want to. I mean, you can minimize it. I do know some people who are not on Facebook and are
Yeah.
not on Twitter, but social media is still around. I mean, how we do an interview, we're live streaming here. I mean, you're out on the East Coast, right? And we're here. So, I mean, the connection and the information that's available to everybody, but our young children, like my son is going to be 18. He was 3 when we let him on a computer,
Right.
and now I say, like they're born with a phone in their hand. It's like a 6 finger, if you will. And I know that we need to try to control that, but you're saying reach out, like that's, and then we throw in the whole, like if your parents are married, you're not normal, right?
You're going to be in the minority. That's right. It's definitely shifted around. This whole social media universe and stuff. It's funny. I've actually been changing my mind a little bit, looking at some recent research. I mean, on the one hand, I will say, look, there's a lot of really good stuff that happens online. Our kids are probably less racist, less homophobic, less sexist than a generation or two ago, because they're swimming in a universe of Me Too hashtags and big ideas and pink shirt campaigns and all this kind of stuff. And that's good, right? We want our kids to be able to access. And I don't know about you. Have you ever listened to your kids what's on their loaded on their music stream and stuff like that? They're listening to stuff from global infusion African beats with Irish whistles, and I mean, there's a lot of great stuff out there about this. But of course, it also has 2 downsides. One is the cyberbullying, which of course that has a lot to do with coaching our kids to not put themselves into dangerous situations. And then the second one is we are, I think, for some kids, creating this spike in anxiety disorders. And I think that does worry me, that the kids are not turning their media off. But hey, you know what? We adults aren't doing it either. And we're not always modeling for our kids. And I meet kids, by the way, who tell me that they feel, this is the phrase I love, they feel digitally neglected, meaning that it's the parents who are sitting down at the dinner table with their phones and their media on. And in a sense, I do think the onus is on us as parents to sometimes just turn off the internet in the home, or to at least set some reasonable limits. Or if we don't like them playing all those video games, then heck, we don't have to buy the gear. We don't have to, there's a little bit of like, we do have some control over this, but we also don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater in this either. There's definitely some good, and then there's definitely some problems.
Yeah. Well, I've been through that as this. I mean, this is what I do. I'm a social media guy and all that stuff, and I've had that conversation with different younger folks. Like, you always hear that. Well, you don't understand. Well, you're right. I don't understand. Please help me understand. I'm trying to, and I want to so bad. But I say, go look at my Facebook timeline and go look at your Facebook timeline. Like, you will not see anything negative on my Facebook timeline. And that's because I choose to surround myself, the right people, what I won't allow on there. And it sounds a little philosophical, but I put it out to the universe. I don't want negative around me. And I don't respond to drama and all those things that most of us have learned growing up to go, this is the difference. Is sometimes the best response is no response to all that stuff. But you and I know that, and we get that, and we've learned that, and some of us maybe took longer to catch up to that, but it still seems to be difficult to get the message out there.
But it's interesting when we start talking about parenting in this century now. Part of parenting is going to be on coaching our children. I love what you just said there about take a look at my stream and see if there's anything negative in there. Think about how do we protect ourselves from all this constant sort of bombardment and criticism. And I think that these are actually now very modern day tasks that parents have to do. Just like, decades ago, we used to tell kids, I think we still tell kids, don't run out between parked cars or don't eat yellow snow or whatever. Right.
Right.
But like this is just part of the modern world now. That's coaching our kids on how to stay safe, but also and what it does to your brain if you don't turn those phones off after sort of 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. That the way that triggers some of the new neuroscience is really showing that there are consequences to being just constantly hitting the I likes and the social media feed. It's keeping us overstimulated, and frankly, that takes a horrible wear and tear on our body at almost what we're discovering at almost like a genetic level, or sort of we're literally at the deep inside of us that is going to sort of cause us problems. And I think kids need to understand that we're not designed for that kind of constant stimulation. We need our downtime, and we definitely need sleep. And I think when kids help, we as parents, that's our job now, to help them turn off their devices. It wasn't in the job description when I was growing up, but it sure as heck is part of it now.
Yeah. Interesting. You're going to do, what am I trying to say? I'm looking forward to it because I know you're a storyteller, right? You've sort of been known for your presentations have stories behind it, which those are my favorite presenters who tell some stories. You have some humor in there, and I'm guessing we're going to learn from you as well. But it must take some time for you to. I mean, obviously, this your background and stuff, but it must take some time for you to put together good presentations to make sure that they're impactful to your audience.
Yeah, I've probably done about 600 presentations over the last decade alone, and I do find that I get really great feedback from my audiences because they've been helping me develop the stories, and I've learned very much that people will remember the story, but they won't necessarily remember all the science underneath the story, but they'll remember the story as a linchpin for what they're going to do with their own kids. And so I love, I always say, look, I'm a scientist. Absolutely. I hold a very prestigious Canada research chair, blah, blah, blah. I work at a good university, et cetera, et cetera. But I got to tell you, if a big idea, a big theory, or somebody comes to you with a big theory and it doesn't float in terms of an actual child or an actual family, throw it out. It ain't worth it. It's not worth anything. Right. And so I start with the stories. And then if people want, I always drop in a little bit so that people know, look, this is not my opinion. I'm not basing this just on my own kids. I'm certainly not basing it just on one or two families. What I'm saying is, I study this stuff, but I also know that this has to be workable in real people's lives. I'll tantalize people with we'll talk about Cinderella. We'll talk about Jack and the Beanstalk. We'll talk about kids from coast to coast in Canada and the United States, and we'll talk about real families that have solved very, very complex problems with kids running away, kids being violent, kids with severe anxiety disorders. I mean, these aren't just my experiences; these are actually gathered from families who have succeeded and shown me that there are actual things that we can offer kids concretely, and I think that's the best stories.
Yeah, well, definitely couldn't agree with you more on that, and looking forward to your presentation. I know you're going to be here June 14th. I know Sarnia Lambton Rebound is welcoming you here, and you've given us permission to live stream and broadcast it to the world too. So very thankful for that, and looking forward to meeting you in person and shaking your hand as well.
That'd be great. More the merrier. Come on down. Absolutely.
Yeah. Any final words before we send you on your way?
Oh, just to be hopeful. Sometimes this message of kids doom and gloom and problems and everything else. I sometimes say our systems are not totally broken. There's a lot of amazing things going on in our schools, in our communities, and in our families, and we sometimes forget to celebrate that. That is
fantastic.
Yeah.
Again, Dr. Michael Ungar, thank you so much. We'll look forward to seeing you.
Talk to you soon.
All right. Dr. Michael Ungar coming to Sarnia June 14th, thanks to Sarnia Lambton Rebound. This is a free event, so make sure that you go to Sarnia Lambton Rebound online on their website or on their Facebook page to get more information. Again, it's happening on June the 14th at 6 o'clock. Definitely want to get there for many reasons that you just heard about, but the first 75 people registered are going to get a free copy of his book, I Still Love You. But if you can't make it, we will be broadcasting it live from the Great Lakes Auditorium here in Sarnia on the Video Show Network. And that, again, will be live at 6 o'clock. Thank you, Dr. Michael Ungar, for being here. And again, June the 14th, there's the information on your screen. Very good. My next guest, I said that I wasn't sure. I don't even know where this is going to go. I just know that this is it's going to be a fun conversation. And the reason I say that is this gentleman is so eclectic with the things that he does. I had a chance to briefly, kind of in passing, meet him, but hear him speak/sing recently at Ignite Sarnia. And he's in the lobby. I think he's ready. So we'll just bring him online here right now. And this is Phil Smythe. Thanks for being here, Phil.
Hi there. How are you?
I'm fantastic.
You can hear me and see me?
We can hear you and see you, and you look fantastic and sound great. How about that?
Of course I do. Of course I do.
Phil, we haven't really, like I said, we sort of met in passing at the Ignite Sarnia event there. And your story really intrigued me, and I think it's just, which story that is, because you have so many. You're an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
You're a musician.
Mm-hmm. True.
You're a traveler. Where do I begin with you?
I don't know. And people always say begin at the beginning, but the beginning's the most boring part, so we're not going to start there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's go on the entrepreneur side of things first. Okay. Like, how many businesses you've got? The Zon Master, and you've got.
Right now, I kind of have. I like to say 2.5 things going. I don't like to overextend myself too much, but I'm running Zon Master, which is a kind of customer relationship management tool for Amazon sellers. That's the tagline for that. So I deal a lot with supporting Amazon sellers and reaching out to their customers and all of that. And I also have a company called Lottery Canada, which maybe is the more visible one to people, certainly people living in Canada. And we're the largest lottery results provider in Canada. So if you go online and check your lottery tickets, quite often you're using either our website directly or some service that we've provided.
Oh, I see. Okay, so the lottery. So that's just for checking. There's more than that, though. Like, why would I want that service?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I never try and guess the mind of a customer, but people like to check their lottery tickets. Personally, I mean, maybe I shouldn't say this, but personally, I always, if I'm going to play the lottery, which I don't actually recommend people do, I checked my number at the variety store, because if I won, I want the money. There we are. That's my site.
Yeah, that's you guys right there, lotterycanada.com.
Yeah.
Well,
that's been going for almost 20 years.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's a incredible unsung success story of the Canadian internet. We've been around for forever.
That's fantastic. What inspires you to do what you do, as many things as you do? I mean, I kind of know because I saw your presentation recently, but you're kind of like a do what you love or don't do it kind of guy. Yeah,
I don't believe in saying follow your passion, because I don't think that that's necessarily true. I think you should become passionate about what you're doing. I never thought I would be passionate about, helping Amazon sellers, but I actually love that company. It's a great company. It's very interesting, and I get to see the inner workings of Amazon. So, I become passionate about what I'm doing, but the reason how I choose the things, it's really serendipity, like it comes along, an opportunity comes along. Let's say 15 years ago, I was living in Spain 15 years ago, and I went to London, England, to visit some friends of mine, and they could get like any movie they wanted through the mail using a service that in the UK was called Love Film, over here was called Netflix, or in the States was called Netflix. And I said, man, I'd love to be able to do that. I wish I could get any movie I wanted, because I love movies. And so I went back home and I said, how hard can it be, really, to set up a company that sends out DVDs to anybody? So I just set up a company like that in Spain, and I started this company that was, Spain's Netflix at the time.
Okay.
And, I ended up with a garage full of 15,000 DVDs and, 3 Spanish ladies working, stuffing envelopes all day and sending out things to thousands of customers in Spain. But I mean, I started it because I kind of knew that the idea worked.
Right.
And it wasn't happening where I was at the time. So most of my businesses are really like that, seeing an idea and transplanting it. I think that usually works for a lot.
Yeah.
And then, changing it, because the other thing, like I said the other night, is that, you should make a business that's based on you at the beginning. If you can't bring anything unique to the table, why are you doing it? And I'm always surprised, at people who do like franchises. I don't want to diss anybody, but a franchise, the whole point is that you're actually not bringing anything special to the table. And I think it's a little bit weird.
Yeah, you just kind of you're buying a system, right? It's already in place, and but I like what you said about passion. I mean, I've always been that guy too that says, follow your passion, but and I still kind of believe that. But I like the way you put it out there better. You should be passionate about what you're doing, but what are you bringing to the game of what you're doing, right? Are you looking to change the world, Phil?
No. I think my other personal belief is that, whereas I've just said do something where you bring it to the table and it's about you, my other personal belief is that, I'm kind of an unimportant person. So I'm doing things that I believe are good ideas, and whether people know I do them or not, or whether they change the world or not, well, okay, yeah. Maybe I do want to change. I want to do what I do really well.
Yeah.
And hopefully what I do has an impact. I guess it'd be kind of silly to have a business that didn't make any difference.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Talk about Japan.
Yeah. So now I'm living in Japan.
Is that where you are right now?
No, right now I'm probably not far from you, but
okay.
Back on Wednesday, I'll be back in Japan. And I've been living there for about 5 years, 6 years, something like that. Before that, I was living in Europe. I lived in Europe for almost 20 years. So, yeah, I'm old.
What took you to Japan?
I first went to Japan in 2006, and I got off the plane. And in between getting off the plane and getting on the bus from Narita Airport to downtown Tokyo, I just said, I'm in love with this country. I'm going to live here. It just, something about it totally connected with me. I loved the quality of everything. Everything worked. And it didn't hurt that at the time I was living in what I call the anti-Japan, which is Spain, where, nothing works. No offense to the Spanish people. I loved living in Spain, but come on, nothing worked. Everything was late, very confusing. And Japan just kind of appeals to my slightly OCD sensibilities. And I love living there. I love living there. And I like that 60% of the time I have absolutely no idea what's going on. So, I may know what's going on. I have no idea why it's going on.
Right. Well, I'm guessing, so you must be like, I guess it would call you a man of the world. You're learning from so many different cultures where you go. I've always been, I mean, I've lived in Sarnia all my life, so I'm born here, all that sort of stuff. And I'm going to maybe put myself out there for being a target for dart throwing, but I've always thought that we North Americans, and I'm generalizing, I guess there, we really think we're it. And we're not, though, are we? Compared to the rest of the world.
I think everybody's it. And I think that's, I wish people would travel more, and not, by travel, I don't mean go like for all-inclusive weekends to the Dominican. Like, there's a fascinating world out there. And that's the reason I left. I mean, though maybe left is a big word, but, when I was in my teens, I kind of read a lot of Graham Greene, and I loved that idea of traveling the world and seeing these cultures, and that these cultures all had something to offer to me, and so that was just in my DNA. That's just who I am, and it's not, other people who haven't left, there's nothing wrong with that, and they have things that I don't have. So I mean, it works both ways, but it's definitely true that when you travel, you see that there are other cultures out there, and there are other people who believe that their way of life is just as great as yours. And, you can pick and choose great things from around the world.
Yeah. Is this the traveling that you do is part of that what inspires your music?
Ah, man. Yeah. Great question. Funny thing is that I write, because I consider myself a writer more than a songwriter more than anything else. And I do most of my writing in Sarnia. Now I don't know what it is. Maybe there's something in the water. Well, I'm sure there's something in the water, but
there's definitely something in the water,
and in the air. But there's some kind of catalyst here, and I write a lot when I'm here. And I also maybe I'm here and I have downtime, but I get inspired. Writing, I don't really write about the world. I'm a storyteller, and I tell stories in different ways. I tell a story through a song, or I'll tell a story through a story. Either way.
Yeah, I really enjoyed, and this would be a good example of what you're talking about, your Ignite Sarnia presentation. For those who don't know, Ignite Sarnia gives you 5 minutes to talk about basically whatever you want within certain borders, but and 5 minutes goes by pretty fast. And you chose to tell a story using your music. And you included your dog in there a couple of times. But what I found great about what you did, it wasn't even just what the story was about. It was how you took us down. You took us on a journey for 5 minutes. But you could lead that audience in one direction. We thought you were going over here, and then all of a sudden you went over here, and we were totally lost in you, so to speak. And there's a lot of humor in there too.
Yeah, you have to have a sense of humor. I hate people who don't have a sense of humor. I mean, life's too short. That's another thing I find, that actually people who think that they're so important rarely have a sense of humor about how shockingly unimportant they are in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, have you meet people like that?
Oh yeah, I meet a lot of people like that.
How do you handle people like that?
I have people come up to me, because now I'm at this level, I guess, in my life and in my success and everything. I often have people come up to me who want, me to invest in their business, because I've done that before, or do these things. And I'm just like, you know what? I don't really care. I mean, I'm happy that you care, but I don't really care. And if I don't care, it's not something I'm going to do. And I also say that, you're going to go out and find that lots of people actually really don't care. And the great thing is it doesn't matter. I'm sure nobody really cares about any of my businesses or what I do every day or anything like this, but I'm still happy doing what I do, Right. You shouldn't have to get that validation. And you shouldn't have to think that you need it and other people should give it to you. It doesn't really matter.
Do you think we look too much for that? Some of us, we're like, even the, like I want my dad's approval, or I want my friend's approval, or, or why don't you like what I'm doing? I've worked really hard at this, and it would mean so much to me if you would just approve. Think we look too much for that?
I do. I mean, I think that's part of, this is a big topic. So, I mean, that's part of like what the Instagram generation is about. And I mean, people show these things from themselves because tacitly they want approval, they want the likes or whatever. But it is like what you said, that's very true about parents as well. You kind of want your parents' approval for what you do. And you want your partner's approval or your kids' approval or whatever it is. You just want approval. Whereas I think the sad thing for me is that most people, if they step back, they can pretty much judge if they're a success or not, if what they're doing is the right thing or not. Because I hope that people have this moral compass inside and they can say, I'm actually doing okay at what I'm doing,
Yeah. I think we've all been there at some point, like, I like how you mentioned the likes and the how many likes I got for that post. I mean, in my business, in my world of what we're doing here, I mean, views and reach and likes are. I used to really care a lot about that, and I guess in a business sense, because it can affect my business, I do somewhat. But I've also kind of learned to. It's not how many likes I'm getting that's important. It's who's liking it that's more important, right? It's not how many people know you that matters. It's how they know you that matters.
Yeah.
I think is probably, and that social media world. But social media must play a big part in your businesses, though, does it?
Yeah, I guess it does. I mean, I'll say that Zonmaster, for instance, I do not advertise at all. I don't think I think maybe right now, literally at all. I don't have any advertising going. And so people find us through word of mouth, or, we have some competition, but, that's fine. Competition is always good. I think you should get into a business where there is competition. But, I don't really do any advertising. I don't do any social media. For myself, I kind of egotistically have a media persona, and so, we all do. But, of course, I want to have some likes and things like that, but it's not so important to me. I just want to have fun with it. And it's almost, I want people to see, how unusual life is. And that's my only role. So if people don't see it, that's fine. I'm showing it to you, but if you're not going to look, don't look.
Fantastic.
That being said, please like my Instagram.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just going to take a moment before I wrap up. I'm just going to ask you quickly, and then I've got to move on to Cynthia Lockrey. Kevin O'Leary.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
What's that about?
About 7 years ago, whenever Shark Tank Season 1 was, I was a partner and co-founder of a company in Los Angeles called Toy Guru. And Toy Guru were the Netflix of toys. And we rented toys and so on and so forth. And my partners thought it would be great to go on this new show called Shark Tank. And I had heard of Shark Tank, and of course, I knew of Dragon's Den in Canada and all that. And I knew who was on it, and I knew who I wanted and who I didn't want. And we went on the show, and we got the investment. Long story short, we got the investment, and I magically ended up with Kevin O'Leary and Mark Cuban as business partners.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it didn't turn out that well. I mean, the company sunk pretty soon after that for various reasons that you can read about on the internet if you want.
All right.
But it was, an interesting thing. I learned a lot from those two guys, not because of anything they did in the business, but I learned that, they were true to themselves, and you knew what they were from the TV show, and that's exactly who they were.
Yeah, fantastic.
I also learned, don't get investment. Well, I believed it before, and I believe it since. You don't get investment unless you really, 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 really need it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Final question. Is it okay to fail?
Oh, man, I fail every day.
Yeah.
Failing, I think, is... Well, it depends how you define failure, but yes, I think that I try lots of things that never pan out, and lots of businesses, like every year I'll start a business probably, and it may or may not take off. And you learn from your failures as much as you get money from your successes, and you get knowledge from your failures.
That's great advice and great stories. And I know you've got so much more. Maybe we'll have to reconnect. And
sure.
Next time you're in Sarnia,
Anytime.
Reach out to me, and I'll buy you lunch, and you can tell me some more stories.
Sounds good. We can stream it live.
Sounds good. Phil Smythe, thanks so much for joining me today.
See ya.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Fantastic, exciting stories. And, one of the things I love about doing my show and the people I have on it is I always learn so much from them. You get some little nuggets, and it's just a nice conversation to hear what other people are doing and how they're feeling about things and what they do to make themselves happy. Phil Smythe, again, joining us, entrepreneur, musician, storyteller. He's a lot of things, but he's a lot of good things. Thanks again, Phil, for being here. All right, coming up next, Bed Rest Mom. Boy, That's an interesting topic, and we're going to tell you all about it. I also met this lady recently at Ignite Sarnia. And again, for those of you not knowing Ignite Sarnia, a session that happened here a couple of weeks ago in Sarnia, and people had 5 minutes to tell their story about their product or their service or their thoughts or their book. And this next guest of mine, Cynthia Lockrey, she's here ready to go. We're going to bring her online right now. And here she is, Cynthia. She is the bed rest mom. Hello, Cynthia.
Hi, how are you doing today?
Fantastic. Thanks for giving me the time here. I know you're, where are you?
Vancouver Island.
Vancouver. That's hometown for you now, is it?
Yeah, I'm from Sarnia originally, and actually the second half of my book is about my experience being pregnant in Brights Grove and being too high risk for Sarnia Hospital and being transported to London. So I'm on Vancouver Island, but there's a Sarnia story in there.
Well, I have to say, and of course you recognize Phil there from Ignite Sarnia, and that was the first time I've heard of you, and I'm not sure if we've met. I think we might have met somewhere previously a while ago, but I'm not sure.
I was a reporter at the Sarnia Gazette.
Oh,
do you remember the Sarnia Gazette?
Well, I do.
Yeah.
I'm 49. That's all I'm going to say.
I was going to say it was the 80s, and I was a newspaper editor in Chatham, Kent for a number of years.
Right.
Before going to the dark side, which is public relations.
Oh, is that what they call public relations?
That's what they call us.
Oh, well, that's probably a whole other show and another book probably.
Yep, and that's why I wrote a book, is because I have a newspaper reporter background.
Right.
And so telling stories comes very easily to me.
Yeah. I have to say, being an author is one thing. Being a writer is another. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Having to think about the person that's reading this and the different personality types, how people process information.
Yeah.
And I'm not a medical expert, but I've lived through this experience twice. Right. 3 months of home-based bed rest with my daughter, 2 months of living in Victoria Hospital with my son, and figuring it out as I went along. So in the book, I interviewed some moms I met at Victoria Hospital and a friend of mine from Sarnia as well, and shared their story. So it's not just about me.
Right. It's an interesting topic though, because I mean, it's not one that comes up every day. I mean, no. It's more, even pregnancy, you know, I mean, those are things that happen to us anywhere from 1 to I guess 3.2 times in our life is the average, whatever. So once the births have happened, I guess what I'm trying to say, when it's not our world, we're talking about something else, right? But there's a lot of things that happen, or that can happen, I guess. Can you tell a little bit of your story of experience? I guess with your son would be the one.
Yeah, so I had 2 pregnancies before my son, one being my daughter and one being a pregnancy loss. So you're always a little bit more anxious. I'd had the loss, and I'd had a child where I'd spent time on bed rest. With my son, I was reassured it's okay, everything will be fine, you're just overly anxious, and it wasn't fine. So when I was transported to London, what the beautiful part was, I lived on a unit with all these other high-risk moms, and I realized I wasn't alone. Right. Where when I had a home-based bed rest, it was me and my cat. My husband was at work and staring at walls all day. And when I wrote the book, there's the pregnant moms that need to read it, but what's more important to me is that the nurses, the doctors, the midwives, the social workers who support high-risk moms can have an insight into what's going on with us, because nobody is ever talking about the mental health aspect and the toll that high-risk pregnancy takes on a woman.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I'm chuckling only for a moment, because I've been saying more and more often that I don't even have to do a show on mental health. It just comes up in conversation all the time.
All the time.
Like, it just, and I'm not just talking about on my shows, I'm just talking about, I had one earlier today, at a coffee shop. Like it's just, um, I are we? I know we're getting better at talking about mental health, and I think it's great that we are. But are we still missing it?
We are, because when I was pregnant with both my high risk pregnancies, everybody checked on the baby's heart rate, checked my
Hmm.
urine dip, checked my blood pressure. Nobody ever asked me if I was okay.
Yeah,
And I think it's an uncomfortable place to be, because then they're going to get the answer if they really dug. And
yeah,
then they're going to get the tears. And then they're going to have to deal
yeah,
with it. And I don't know if they have the time, quite frankly, in the medical profession to sit and hold somebody's hand and help them
yeah.
through.
Well, you're probably right on that. I mean, lots of folks I know here in Sarnia in the medical field, and I've had these conversations with professionals. That is something that we're lacking. And but I mean, I certainly I I don't think a pregnancy and associate mental health with that.
A
I,
lot of people
it just doesn't
don't.
come up. I don't think about it that way, but it makes sense.
Well, and you have all these hormones raging through you. And if you've ever been around a pregnant woman, you know that she'd be laughing 1 minute, crying the next minute, and telling you to get out 2 minutes
Yeah,
later.
yeah,
So you compound that emotional with, now I'm stuck on this couch or I'm stuck on this bed and nobody's there for me, and it just, the emotions are worse and worse, plus you're stressed out of your mind about this baby.
yeah.
And I wish they wouldn't call it bed rest, because when they say rest, everybody envisions you with a tub of ice cream on your lap watching Netflix.
Wrong.
Right?
Well,
Feet up.
I do remember when my ex-wife and we had our children. I remember trying to say like, don't worry about the dishes. Don't worry about cleaning the house. Who cares about that?
Mm-hmm.
And well, that was hard for her to do because she liked things clean. Would it have been better if a friend just come over and instead of come over, okay, have a quick visit, but come on over and do the dishes for them,
Absolutely.
or make them some lasagna or whatever that is, and just clean the house for them or that kind of
Well,
stuff.
my favorite story was after I wrote the book. Somebody said that they knew a woman who put sticky notes on the front door.
Oh
And
yes, right.
every sticky note was something that you had to be done. So you could, if you knocked on that door, part of the deal is you grabbed a sticky note.
Okay.
So it might be do dishes, it might be fold laundry. But it meant, what it signaled to you as a visitor is, you're not here to drink coffee and have idle chit chat.
Yeah.
You are going to
And
do
don't ask me
something
to
to
make
help.
the coffee for you.
Oh, right?
Yeah.
And even after baby's born, these women have been through a lot. Unless you've had a kidney stone, you don't know what this is like.
I've heard it's compared to that.
I had C-section, so my husband's had kidney stones, and the nurse said it was worse than my C-section, but I don't know about that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'll take your word for it. I really don't need to find out, honestly. Um, is it? I guess pregnancies typically. I mean, it's the one level on the hospital floor usually that brings the most happiness, but it's not always that way. Um, do we how, how do we handle it? Because I think sometimes, you know, we talk about being the friend and coming over and helping and that sort of stuff too. But how do we handle what's going on up top here with the mom and honestly, what about
What about
dad?
dad? Absolutely. And I think what it is don't be afraid. Be
Yeah.
present. I had more people say they were going to visit than people who actually visited. I had lots of people who said, "Oh, I'll be up. Oh, I'm sorry, I got busy." Okay, I was there for 2 months. But in any
Yeah.
case,
And by the way, you're busy every week. Yeah.
right? And that's great that you have the chance to be busy. These moms don't have the chance to be busy. So imagine spending all day, every day in one place.
Hmm.
Those hours drag on. And for
Sure.
dad, like you said, where the biggest help my husband got was some moms in Brights Grove picked my daughter up for her dance lessons, helped him get flowers when she had her recital.
Oh, yeah.
Entertained her so that he could get 5 minutes break, because he is 24/7 with this little one that's very emotional about mom being away, but kids are in the moment. So if there's kids at home, help entertain them.
Right.
And help around the house, even though dad's there, he's also running around with a kid. And if he's not running with a kid, some of the parents in the hospital that I met, the dad, because it was the first child, lived at the bedside because he was so anxious.
Right. Right.
So there's a lot of help that's needed.
So I guess it's fair to say we've said that it takes a community.
It does. And I think the moms, that what I would put on the parents is be clear on the help you need. I have an exercise in the book about, if you say you need meals, what's your food allergies? What's your preference? You don't want a bunch of tuna casseroles. If you need kids picked up, what's the date? What's the time? What's the location? And then people can really drill down and help you as they want to.
Yeah. And that's, these are good things as somebody who has a network around them. Mm-hmm. But what about somebody who's alone and, in a very unique situation, and they don't have grandparents aren't around and the dad's not around, and I mean, that can be even more challenging.
I can't even imagine what that would be like. With our daughter, we were living in BC. I was working for the Olympics, and we didn't know anybody. It was just my husband. Mm-hmm. I knew a few people, but I would say the health unit might be a good start to connect, because they have the resources. They may not be the answer, but they may have the resources. The other thing is, if you have access to a computer, start searching online. There are support groups everywhere. And even if Sarnia doesn't have one, you can tap into a support group out of Toronto. Right. It's virtual. They don't need to be in the same city as you.
Well, I was going to say, even online, there's Facebook groups, and there's, just to have that connection with somebody who not necessarily has it better than you, but is going. I think I just dropped you. There, I'm back.
There we go.
I don't have a production team. It's just me, Cynthia.
That's okay. I don't either.
Somebody who's just to be able to connect with somebody who can relate to what you're going through, and it could save somebody's life, really, to be able to have that connection.
Well, and also, if you think of the stress we're going through during pregnancy, we are more likely, the high-risk moms, to have children in the NICU, which is the neonatal intensive care unit. Yeah. Then we're most likely to have postpartum depression. Right. So if you look at the costs to the healthcare system, the more support you can give these women at the beginning to avoid it. And one of the moms I talked to for my book said she's a pretty smart woman. She realized she needed to deal with these issues when she was pregnant, because they would compound when baby was born. Right. But not everybody's at that place where they're saying, I need to work through this stuff right now. They're just barely holding on, like you said.
So I guess the other thing is, don't be afraid to ask for help either.
Ask for help.
Which some of us have a hard time doing, right? We don't always like to, including us ones who say you should ask for help. We're probably the worst ones who don't like to ask for help.
Absolutely. And I would say family doctor, midwife, the health unit, find your resources. But if you are a healthcare provider or a friend or family member, and it's not just pregnancy, it's anything, really don't ask that first question of how are you doing, which is so superficial, and then end it there. Because what's your natural response? I'm fine, even when you're not fine.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, I'm fine. Yeah.
And don't ever share your pregnancy story about working until the day before you had your baby, or running a marathon, and all these unrealistic pregnancy stories for a high-risk mom.
Keep because we're not all like that. Yeah, good for you. So you're better than me. Thanks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right. Well, and I know one of the things, and I like how you say, don't say, I'll be there and then not show up. I've had some friends where they're friends, but I don't hang out with a lot. But and then had a baby, and one's a neighbor of mine. And when her and her husband had their baby, I said, "Congratulations! I'm going to give you about a month before I come over and see you." Because I know her family, and they have a big family, and they're all very close. And I thought, I don't. They're fine for a while.
Yeah.
But I said I will see you in a month or two, and I waited, and that was okay because that's what I said I would do, right?
Well, and that's okay if it's a normal pregnancy. From what I hear, women can be in the hospital in 24 hours versus 2.5 months. So for those pregnancies, it's totally different. But those of us who are shackled to a bed or shackled to a couch, and also is it an introvert, is it an extrovert? I'm an extrovert. I'm dying if I'm stuck in my house with no one to talk to.
I hear you.
My husband would come home and I would chat his ear off.
Well, I'm sure that your story is. I haven't read your book. I haven't had a chance, but I do know a couple from Ignite that talked about it and stuff. I had conversation with. It's a fabulous book from what they tell me. So you're having an impact on people, and I know that people can. So if they want to go online and buy the book, it's simply bedrestmom.com.
And also Susan at the Bookkeeper, if you really want that autographed copy. When I was home, I left a bunch autographed at the Bookkeeper. And then I have a second book coming out in September, which is called Your Child's Voice. And it's a patient advocacy guide for parents raising children with special needs.
Oh, wow. Fantastic. I knew there was another book, but I didn't know what it was about. So we'll have to have you back to talk about that. Will you be back in Sarnia again for that?
I am. Susan at the Bookkeeper is doing another event. It is, I feel, September 8th.
Okay.
And she's taking pre-orders for that book now because there's such a demand for patient advocacy for us parents raising kids with special needs or kids that fall through the cracks.
Absolutely. Well, that link that I sent you to book a time on the show.
Yep.
If you want to come back again, pick another date using that same link. I'd love to have you back talk about that for sure.
Hey, I'd love to. And it's great getting all of us Sarnia people, Japan, Vancouver Island.
And this is, and so if you've got some friends, and I know you do, that have great stories or whatever, please, I'd be more than, and it doesn't matter where they're from, whether they're from Sarnia. I just like these positive, feel-good, real topics and real people. So feel free to share that link with anybody.
Love it. No, I really appreciate always the chance to talk about this topic. And this is the only book ever written in Canada which is crazy, but in 2018, somebody had to do it.
Well, and there you are. Nothing wrong with being first.
That's
Cynthia,
right.
Thanks so much for writing the book and for giving us your time here. And tell your husband thanks as well.
I will. Okay.
All right. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.
All right, author and writer of Bed Rest Mom, Cynthia Lockrey. I really enjoyed talking with her, and I'm looking forward to having her back again because I know there's a lot more stories in there. And thanks to all of you for watching here. Wow, we've gone overtime, but the great thing about me doing my own show is nobody can tell me when I have to stop. There's no time limits here, but we are about an hour and 10 minutes in. So thanks to all of you for watching. Keep an eye out on the Facebook page. I'll be posting the links to find all of our guests on the Facebook page a little bit later on. So thanks again to Cynthia Lockrey, Bed Rest Mom. And then, of course, Phil Smy was here. Boy, there's a man of the world for sure. And of course, Dr. Michael Ungar, who's going to be here in Sarnia on June the 14th here at Great Lakes Secondary School, talking about his new book, I Still Love You, talking about resilience and the 9 things that we need to help teach our children. So, wow, lots of things to talk about. Of course, we'll be back here again next week. And just a reminder, don't forget to vote. If you're having a hard time deciding, I know this is a really interesting election year, but vote, but do your research first. And please take the time to share this video around, and we're going to do some other things coming up here over the weekend as well, so keep watching for more. Thanks, everybody, for watching. That's all the time I got for you this week. Have a great week and an even better weekend. I will see you next time right here on the show live. Bye for now.